In today's video, I'll be discussing research on longevity, which compares vegetarians to non-vegetarians. I will focus on 3 areas of study. 1, the Adventist Health Study 2, which was done in the United States. 2, the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition, or EPIC Oxford Study, which was done in the United Kingdom. And 3, research on the blue zones. Topic 1, the Adventist Health Study 2. Recruitment for the Adventist Health Study 2, or AHS2, took place from 2002 to 2007 in the United States and Canada. Researchers analyzed dietary data from over 70,000 Seventh-day Adventist men and women for about 6 years and compared outcomes for people in 5 dietary categories: non-vegetarian, semi-vegetarian, or those who ate meat at least 1 time per month, pesco-vegetarian, or fish eaters, lacto-ovo vegetarian, people who eat dairy and eggs but no other types of meat, and vegan. After controlling for other variables which can affect mortality, like education and smoking, they found that compared to non-vegetarians, when grouped together, vegetarians did generally outlive meat eaters. Now, as you're looking at these numbers, a simple way to make sense of the data is to look at the 95% confidence intervals. Since the outcomes being measured are hazard ratios, any interval which includes 1 tells us that the outcome was not statistically significant, like you see here. If all the numbers fall below 1, then that means that there was a significant benefit for the corresponding group, like you see here. Now, when the researchers separated men from women, they found that this positive outcome remained true for men, but not women. Now, there are a number of potential explanations for why women did not get the same benefits as men from following a vegetarian diet, but we can save that for another video. The researchers also looked at mortality from several specific causes based on the type of vegetarian diet that a person followed. This is where the findings get a bit more interesting. Using non-vegetarians as the comparison group for vegans, lacto-ovo vegetarians, pesco-vegetarians, and semi-vegetarians, they found that pesco-vegetarians actually fared the best for several outcomes. They had lower rates of death from ischemic heart disease and all-cause mortality, which is just a catch-all term for dying in general. Both pesco-vegetarians and vegans fared best for the outcome of non-cardiovascular and non-cancer deaths, such as deaths from kidney failure or infectious disease. Lacto-ovo and semi-vegetarians did not fare better than omnivores for any cause of death. When the researchers again divided the dataset by sex, they found that men who followed a vegan, lacto-ovo, or pescatarian diet died less often from cardiovascular disease than men who didn't. Veganism was also beneficial for reducing the risk of death from ischemic heart disease and all-cause mortality, while being a pescatarian was protective against all-cause mortality and other non-heart, non-cancer related deaths. For women, the only protective association found was for pesco-vegetarians, who were less likely than omnivores to die from ischemic heart disease. Vegan, lacto-ovo vegetarian, and semi-vegetarian women had similar lifespans to non-vegetarian women. Vegetarian women did not fare better than non-vegetarian women for mortality related to infectious disease, neurological conditions, respiratory illness, renal failure, or illnesses of the endocrine system. Vegetarian men, on the other hand, did fare better than men who ate meat on the latter two outcomes. All in all, it seems that while vegetarianism was protective against mortality, particularly for men, it was evident that even less strict vegetarians, such as pesco-vegetarians, had lower mortality rates for several outcomes, and that this eating style was especially beneficial for women. Of note, no associations between diet and cancer mortality were found in this study. Topic 2. The EPIC Oxford Study. Over in the United Kingdom, researchers have also been looking at how mortality outcomes may differ depending on diet type. There are two studies from the 80s and 90s whose data was combined to test this association. They are the Oxford Vegetarian Study and the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition, commonly shortened to the EPIC Oxford Study. They looked at outcomes from over 60,000 people and placed them into 4 categories: regular meat eaters who ate meat 5 or more times per week, low meat eaters who ate meat less than 5 times per week, fish eaters, vegetarians, and vegans. The researchers found that fish eaters were the only group with significantly fewer deaths from malignant cancer, and low meat eaters were the only ones who died less from respiratory diseases. Vegans and vegetarians did not die less often than non-vegetarians from ischemic heart disease or cardiovascular disease, but they were protected against malignant pancreatic cancer. In 2017, a meta-analysis was published wherein researchers put together data from several different studies that each looked at the same outcome. By doing a meta-analysis, researchers are able to pull together data from multiple studies and get a bigger data set and thereby increase statistical power. The trends did favor lower mortality for vegans and vegetarians, but in most cases, the results were not statistically significant. This means that the mortality outcomes for non-vegetarians were generally no different from those of vegetarians. The results of these studies show that strict vegetarianism is not necessarily associated with a longer lifespan. Topic 3. The Blue Zones. Lastly, let's look at data from the Blue Zones. These are 5 locations in the world with an unusually high amount of centenarians, or people who make it to their 100th birthday. These 5 locations are Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya, Costa Rica, Icaria, Greece, and Loma Linda, California. The work done to assess what makes these people live so long by Gianni Pace, Michael Poulain, and Dan Buettner suggests that there are a total of 9 factors which these communities all have in common that help them to live long, healthy lives. These factors are 1. Having a sense of community. 2. Moving about naturally, that is, not going to the gym but incorporating movement into their day-to-day lives. 3. Having a purpose in life. 4. Putting loved ones first. 5. Being surrounded by people with similar goals and values. 6. Having wine in the evening. 7. Following the 80% rule, which means that they stop eating when they feel 80% full. 8. Having a stress management routine. And 9. Having a mostly plant-based diet. Notice that I said mostly plant-based diet. This is because people living in the blue zones all have a tendency to eat less meat than your average Westerner, but they're not exclusively vegetarian. In Okinawa, Japan, people traditionally eat a diet rich in plant foods with small quantities of pork and fish. In Sardinia, Italy, it is customary to eat small amounts of meat, fish, and poultry, and to have lots of sheep and goat's milk. In the Nicoya, Costa Rica, small amounts of meat are consumed as well. In Icaria, Greece, meat and fish make up a little over 10% of their Mediterranean-style diet. Finally, the Adventists of Loma Linda, which are the same group from the AHS2 study that I mentioned earlier in the video, are about 50% vegetarian and 50% non-vegetarian. All in all, meat intake was limited on average to a little over 1 time per week across the blue zones. Altogether, the data suggests that vegetarians do not necessarily outlive non-vegetarians. For women in particular, eating some amount of fish may be better than abstaining from meat completely. It is also important to remember that living into old age is a matter not just of what you eat, but also of the many other lifestyle choices that you make which contribute to the quality of your life. To this end, I really like the Japanese concept of ikigai, which is about finding a personal meaning for your life based on what you're passionate about, what you can be paid for, what you're good at doing, and what the world needs. Alright, so that's it for today's video. If you learned anything new or think that someone that you care about could benefit from this information, then definitely share the video and give it a like so that more people can see it. If you want to follow me on other social media platforms, I have my links to Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest in the description box, and I've also included research links as well for everything that I talked about in this video. So that's it. Take care.